Gasparini, and welcome to this segment of Penn Voice. I'm joined today by Donna Colson, who's the mayor of the city of Burlingame. Donna, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
It's great having you before. We could talk about a myriad of subjects with regard to Burlingame, but I think a topic that's on everyone's minds today is housing, and affordable housing as well.
Yeah.
What is the city of Burlingame doing with regard to improving its housing availability?
Well, it's a great question, and yes, it's very timely right now. And the good news is in Burlingame, we just approved our general plan, which hadn't been updated since 1969, if you can believe it.
I can't.
I know. So we just updated it, and in doing so, we rezoned our entire North Rollins Road area, and we are anticipating about a 20% increase in our population through that rezoning. So about 3,000 units of housing, 6,000 people. And just to put it in perspective, Danny, because it's hard when people just think about a little town, but if you put that in perspective, that's the equivalent of 8 million people if you per capita that for the state of California. That would be like building housing for 8 million people, 4 million units of housing. It would solve our housing crisis throughout the entire state. So we're really proud of this work, and immediately upon having that plan approved, we had a number of permits pulled. So right now, we have 1,350 units of housing under construction or permitted, of which about 250 units are affordable, so almost 20% of the stock. So we're really happy about that, and we think we're moving in the right direction.
So when you make the state reference, it's basically if you took your percentages and then multiplied that at the state level, that's the kind of impact you could be making. And if every community looked at the ratios like you are looking at in increasing your housing availability unit by unit, it's very important to be thinking about. How did this process happen? You obviously did it within your general plan, but it takes a full community to be on board with creating such an impact.
It really does. And I really want to thank San Mateo County for being really visionary around the Home for All initiative, and that's how we did it. We started off with community convenings and conversations. We brought in renters, we brought in homeowners, we brought in businesses, we brought in school teachers, everybody together. We had over 100 people community convenings, and we just shared stories and created empathy for the notion that, you know, Burlingame and the communities of the peninsula cannot just stand in isolation and in inertia, and that we actually have to do something if we want to keep our librarians, and we want to keep our school teachers, and we want our civic leaders, our civic...
Right, to be living and working in the same communities versus a 4-hour or 2-hour commute.
Absolutely, and that would help alleviate traffic, and we figured out, you know, this is really one of the really big differences. So when we were talking about SB 50 earlier, you know, that was a state-mandated system, and it wasn't sensitive to how communities individually. So what we did was we rezoned a commercial area, a big commercial area, right next to BART. So it's right next to BART, it's next to Caltrain, and the land was a little cheaper, so it was a little better and easier for developers to come in and build this workforce housing. So I think responsible local control is really important, and it's really effective, and we can get it done.
Right. And if anybody's interested in looking at your general plan for communities outside of Burlingame, they can certainly jump on your website and look at some of the projects that have been proposed.
Yep, they can. We actually have something called housing projects planned, and we have commercial as well, so you can go on and see what we're building both for housing and commercial. There's a lot more housing than there is commercial right now, so they can see every single project and where it is in the stage. Is it under construction? Is it entitled? Is it in CEQA? And then they can look up dates and see any of the Planning Commission meetings. But funny enough, we just had our first project in the new rezoned area. We had the Planning Commission meeting 2 weeks ago, and it went through 100% approval, first time, everybody loved it, off we went. About almost 300 units of housing that Summerhill is going to be building.
Well, and that's the beauty of creating general plans, so that all of the work is done in advance. So as developers come in, they know what they can and cannot do. So they present a proposal that the community has already voiced its opinion on and has already said, yes, this is what we want. So it makes it so much nicer.
That's exactly right. And the other really interesting part of this conversation is that we created and put in housing and commercial linkage fees. So we're now going to be driving funds from this to help us. And we are looking at something really innovative called maybe flex support. So what we realized is that even if you have rent control and you have just cause eviction, if people can't pay their rent, that is how they get out of their housing. That's how they lose their housing. So by putting in this flex support, if somebody, say for example, loses a job or has a medical emergency and cannot make 1 or 2 months rent or even a mortgage payment and they're income qualified, we are hoping to be able to step up and subsidize and backfill them to keep them in their housing.
Right.
And we think that's going to be really important.
It'll be important to all communities, and something to watch to ensure that other communities may want to adopt something similar to what you're doing. We're going to jump from housing to retail. Because you obviously, Burlingame is known for its very vibrant retail corridor. You've had some recent conversations about your retail corridor, so tell us about that.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's linked. So the more dense housing downtown, the more attractive it is for retailers to come. That's what we're learning.
Right.
And they've all told us over and over again, more density, we will come. So as you know, we renovated Burlingame Avenue a few years back, and we have a couple of dark spaces there. They are getting leased, so we held we based it on our work that we're doing with housing, where we did Burlingame Talks Housing, Burlingame Talks Shop. So we took the same format and we brought the community together and talked about how we might revitalize retail in this age of online sales. And we came away with a few important things. Number one, parking. So we heard you loud and clear that people are having trouble parking in Burlingame. We're building a brand new 5-story parking garage. It's breaking ground in September or October. It will add 181 net new spaces to the downtown area. So we're hearing you on that. We also just passed an amendment on one of our ordinances to rezone the west block of Burlingame Avenue to allow recreational retail in. So for example, maybe a bicycle cycling or some sort of a gym with retail in the front, just to experiment on one block and see if that might reinvigorate some of the big spaces that we're having a hard time for retailers. And then finally, we just put a really innovative little program together to work with our Broadway retail district, which is our really cute local district. And what we're doing is we're reaching out to the business community and saying, if you need some help with a new sign, new awning, paint, tile, maybe some planters, you can come to the city, put in a little proposal, give us your budget, what you're going to do, and then we will reimburse you up to $5,000 to $10,000 per project if it's approved to help you keep and beautify your little shop. Right. And what we realize is that landlords don't pay for all that. Right. The businesses do. And so we really need to help the businesses. This isn't helping the landlords, this is helping the businesses so that they can pay their employees more, they can be open longer hours, and hopefully it will attract more people into that community as well.
Right. So we've gone from housing to retail. We're going to move to clean energy.
Yeah.
Because Burlingame is also doing some really innovative programs with partnership with Clean Energy Peninsula.
Yeah, clean energy is really, again, we're building a whole new neighborhood, and so there's two important things. One is we're really doing some work on green reach codes. So that whole new neighborhood over there, we're hoping will be really green, bike and pedestrian friendly up in Rollins Road. So we were the first community to really reach out and start working on those green codes. And then in addition, there's another wonderful, very innovative project that we're working on with Peninsula Clean Energy. It's called Drive Forward Electric, and it's in partnership with Peninsula Family Services, and I've worked with them for maybe 10 or 15 years. I've done a lot of work fundraising. They're a great important group here in this county. And what we're going to do is PCE is going to put down $4,000 for a used electric vehicle, couple that with a loan from Peninsula Family Services up to $12,000, low interest loans, combine that so that people in low-income areas with low income, $48,000 for a single person, $100,000 for a family of 4, can qualify to buy their first electric vehicles. Right. They'll save money on gas. They'll set a great example for their community. And we've already, I think, had 2 people process through the program. So there you go.
It's a full circle. So shop and live and drive clean vehicles is another part of the program. There's so many things that are happening in Burlingame. So what are the last things that you want to make sure that our community's knowing about our friends to the north?
Yes. Okay. So I would say some of the most happening things that are going on in Burlingame are also on our bayfront. So one is we're working with the county to sort of head off and figure out how we're going to deal with sea level rise out there. So that's a really important part. It goes along with clean energy, goes along with our new community center, net zero energy use. And then we're also very exciting. Oculus is coming. Facebook is coming to Burlingame. By the way, we're not bringing 10,000 people. That's what someone told me the other day. I said, "Where'd you hear that?" And they said, "El Piccolo Cafe." I said, "Read the city website. Don't do that." So they're actually bringing in 3,500 people over the course of the next 4 to 5 years. We're going to have a transportation plan. It's going to be a wonderful partnership for the city. And then we also just had our first public meeting with Topgolf, which will be coming. So there's a lot of exciting things going on in the Bay, around our hotels, the Bayfront, and we're just feeling great about the community and where we're going.
Well, and it's wonderful to see Burlingame and so many of our cities in San Mateo County thinking about, while we're in such a good economy today, we are also still thinking about that jobs, housing imbalance. We are thinking about retail, which brings in great revenue for our communities. And as Burlingame is doing, also thinking about those single-family business owners and how they might improve their stores and attract more business to their shops. And now looking at opening and inviting a new bayfront and also the importance of sea level rise. So we can't say that there's not a lot happening in Burlingame, Donna.
There's a lot. It's on occasion a little overwhelming. I would have to say that I want to send a shout out to my colleagues on the council who really are lifting, doing some really heavy lifting on transportation, on our Recology board, and on PCE, and then with regard to housing. I mean, everyone has taken a big role, is stepping up on countywide committees. So thank you to Vice Mayor Beach and Councilman Keegren, Ortiz, and Brownrigg, because without the cohesive and amazing team we have, we couldn't be moving all these agenda items forward.
And you bring up a great point that all of you not only are giving of yourselves as an elected official, but all of you sit on so many other community boards and community institutions, transportation boards, et cetera, that you're really doing far beyond the policy work within your communities, reaching regional and statewide issues as well. So thank you for your service.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me today. It's wonderful. We always love sharing what's going on in our little town of Burlingame.
Well, not so little town of Burlingame, but thanks so much, Donna. And we'll see you next time on Penn Voice.